The double stroke roll is a double stroke articulation of a single stroke sound. Now let's think about what I mean by that. If I play the single stroke roll, then it sounds like this. And then I start to play the double stroke roll, and instead of using right, left, right, left, right, left, I start using the stickings of right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. I should sound just as clean as I did when I played the single stroke roll. So I'll start playing now slowly the double stroke roll. Here's the single stroke version. Here's the double stroke version. There's something interesting about that. It's very hard to make the right, right, left, left sound as even as the right, 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 right. That's why in concert snare drumming, we often build our articulations around the strong hand, the lead hand, for many players, the right hand. But we have to play double stroke rudimental rolls. So how do you get that double stroke roll to sound as solid as the single stroke? Well, you have to bring the sound of the second stroke, the second right or the second left, up to the full volume level of the first stroke. That's not difficult when you're single stroking, because you can turn your wrist back and come down with the volume that's necessary to make the two strokes even. And you can go up to quite a fast speed doing that. I'll demonstrate. Now I promise I didn't bounce. That was just my wrist going back and forth. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. I shouldn't say it. I shouldn't say that. It's just right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, with the double stroke articulation. If I'm going to go faster with it though, there has to be a point where the bounce comes in, and I always refer to it as a controlled bounce. I can play a double stroke roll, and I encourage you to practice it this way by holding the stick at the fulcrum point. The fulcrum point is the point at which the stick can bounce freely. For a match strip, that's between the thumb and the first finger, index finger, and in the left hand, the fulcrum point is between the thumb and the fleshy part of the hand up towards the bone in your index finger. So you can see it moving in a teeter-totter type position. I think there are other names for that. I think I'm pretty dated saying that. I'm sorry. But you can see it moving back and forth this way. So if I take the drum and put the sticks on it in a position so that I'm only holding the sticks by the fulcrum, the stick will be bouncing on the second stroke, because the wrist has to turn the stick down on the first stroke, and the stick will have to bounce on the second stroke if I give it the freedom to do it by not turning my wrist back up too quickly. Watch that sound. It's one of the most perfect ways I've ever found to help a student turn their wrist stroke into a bounce, because a bounce is a mysterious part of drumming when you're first starting. Here it is. It's pretty interesting, right? Because it's an uncontrolled bounce, but that second stroke is truly bouncing. How do you know it's bouncing? Because you can see in the back of the stick that it's moving independent of the wrist and the hand. It's not moving so that it's connected to the hand and part of the double wrist stroke. There's only one wrist stroke going down, but the stick is taking an independent stroke, which is the bounce, on the second stroke. All right, so we have the bounce. Now we have to turn the bounce into a controlled bounce. In order to do that, you're going to cup in your right hand your second finger around the stick. That's the finger that I believe helps make the bounce become a controlled bounce. That's the second finger kicking the stick like this. You can see it here in the camera. That way. In the left hand, the controlled bounce is going to be from letting the stick go down against the drum and freeing itself up so that the bounce takes place. And the second that that bounce occurs, that second stroke, which has the freedom to bounce because it's coming down from the fulcrum, like that, these two fingers in my playing, which is kind of unusual, you don't see it with a lot of players. I teach it successfully this way though. The ring finger and the little finger, acting as a unit, come up and catch the stick on that bounce. And that's the way I get the control of that bounce for the double stroke articulation. So it's caught and kicked on the second stroke in my right hand by the middle finger. It's caught and kicked back up in my left hand by the ring finger and the little finger. I'll give you a very slow, loose, open, high bounce and hope that you can see that happening in each of my hands. Here we go. I can see on the camera view that's a little bit hidden, and I hope you can trust me for my explanation, because that stick is taking that slow bounce, and these fingers are coming up to catch it, and it's taking that slow bounce and these fingers controlling it. I think you could see a little better if I start moving faster. And the reason I say that is I'm going to go from a wrist turn where you'll see the stick just locked in my hand. And then I'll start going faster over what in my school of teaching has been called the hump. You got to get over the hump so that the stick goes from a controlled wrist stroke into the bounce. And at that point, when I'm making that transition from wrist to bounce, you should see the stick start to free up and these fingers really go crazy when they're kicking that stick back up. Watch as you see it. This is the trick to the long roll, the double stroke roll. I'm going to perform that for you with a 1 minute time cycle so that you can hear it being really controlled. Watch me go through the hump and come back out again so that you'll get a good idea about how that double stroke roll can be controlled and performed. And I'll show you a couple of other exercises to help you control your hands. Here it is. And I hit that minute right on the head because I was really conscious of how I didn't hit it on that earlier demonstration. So my mind was really focused on gauging everything to be the perfect distance as I was coming through on that double stroke. You can check me on a watch if you want to. All right, now, the last thing on the double stroke roll is that you can perform the double stroke roll in two ways. You can put the basis for the double stroke roll as being double strokes. For instance, you're going like this. 1D enda, 2D enda, 1D enda, 2D enda, 1D enda, 2D enda, 1D enda, 2D enda, 1. If I speed that up, which are called duplets, listen to the roll. So the fast sound of duplets is this. The other way of performing a long roll is basing it on triplets. That's the preferred way for me because the triplet sound is a round sound. It's more relaxed, it's more filled out. It stops those little individual pulsations of the roll when it's being performed. Instead of hearing or feeling dagga 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 da, you're hearing diddly 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 dum diddly 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 dum. Listen. It also keeps plenty of speed in there. So that's my introduction for you of the long roll.